Okay, I did not have Red Bull, coffee, or a lot of sugar. Wow. Can I talk about him? Did he leave the room? Lord, man, that was fast. But I will tell you, I will follow up on some of the things that he talked about. My name is attorney Mery Lopez Palma. I'm a real estate planning attorney. I do everything that's related to real estate. I'm a licensed in the state of Florida. I'm also a licensed realtor and a notary. So I'm able to cover a lot of the questions that you have that have to do with the topics that I'll be covering tonight. Most notably, I want to let you know that I am married to Armando Palma. 18 years now. We have 3 beautiful children, Elizabeth, Antonio, and Andres, as you see up there. But I wanted to add that not only do I have children, but I have 4 cats, 4 goats, 2 rabbits, and at least 30 chickens since the last time I counted. Southwest Ranches, we're neighbors. I love Sunrise, just to let you know. We love this area. This is a beautiful facility. And thank you all for coming out tonight. I really appreciate your attendance. And as you met Olga, my legal assistant at the table, she is there to set you up. Any information that you need, make sure you leave your name and number. But before I get started, I wanted to tell you a story about a very successful, wealthy individual who is celebrating his 100th birthday. He owned many companies and lots of real estate. He was a very successful individual, and one day a local reporter came to interview him and asked, "Tell us, what is the secret to your great success?" He said, "It all comes down to one word. It is literally, really, only one word that explains all your success in life." The reporter said, "Really?" And he said, "Yes. And the one word," he said, "is willpower. If you have willpower, you have everything." The reporter said, "Do you care to elaborate? That's very inspiring. Willpower?" He said, "Yes. My father died, and in his will, he left me a fortune. So with willpower, you have everything." Hence the reason why we're here today, to talk about wills, estate planning. So on a more serious note, as you can see, this is our organizational structure at the firm. We're a full-service real estate law firm. What does that mean? It basically means that we do probate, estate planning, all types of deeds, power of attorneys. I do the landlord-tenant evictions. Sometimes we have to evict kids from our own homes, and we do it. Title closings, which is really important. Loan documentations, litigation, mediation, and title review, and pre-foreclosure, short sales, and loan modifications, which was a really hot topic a few years ago, but we might be facing that again. So the law firm, let's talk about the real estate segment. Purchase and sale of commercial and residential property is really important. When you do that, you want to have title insurance. And I could talk to you about the benefits of title insurance, it's coming up, but it's really an important factor to when you buy and sell property. I help individuals with leases. Sometimes we have homes with extra rooms. You know the joke about Burger King in Hialeah and La Ciudad de Progreso? It really happens in Hialeah. It was kind of funny that he brought that up, because when I hear stories like that, I've been in Hialeah for 20 years in my practice, and I've seen it all as well. And so we have to protect ourselves, and having the right documentation is really important. Having the right leases, having a real estate attorney on your team is key. So when you get those robocalls and people saying, "Hey, I'm going to buy your house for cash," you want to be able to have an attorney that's, as I call the family attorney, that you can reach directly. If you don't have your attorney's cell phone number, then he's not part of the family. One thing you'll notice about me is that on my business card that Olga has over there, guess what I have on it? My cell phone number. So when you guys get a question or you're faced with anything that looks like fraud, and you call Marty's office, but you also want to have a real estate attorney on your team, you can have my cell phone number and reach out to me. I also help people do business asset sales, franchise sales, land sales. Those are all pretty self-explanatory, but there are lots of different things that you can do in your life. Young, old, and older, all kinds of business transactions. And you always want to have a real estate attorney at the beginning. Don't call me after the problem happened. It's going to cost you 3 times the amount. You'd be surprised how many calls I get after you're already in the pickle, in the jar, you're done. I'm like, wow, now we have to litigate. So something that would have cost you a couple $100s for me to review and help you with is now going to cost you thousands of dollars. So I always say, before you do any transaction, for any family member, for any friend, always have an attorney review it. And if not me, make sure you pick one. So landlord-tenant actions, we're gonna go on to the next slide. We do those like I talked about early, evictions. The meat and potatoes is the estate planning. The estate planning is really important, and that's what we talked about earlier, willpower. If you have assets, more than a home, you have an investment property, you have retirement accounts, and you have all kinds of different types of assets. You have an art collection, you have a jewelry collection, whatever it is, this is where the will comes in. The will is an important instrument that allows you to express to your family members, when you're no longer here, what you want to do and how you want it done. The will comes in a package with my firm. And what I do, it's called the estate planning package. So the will is the last will and testament. That's just one document, but that document from beginning to end is going to cover all your desires, and it's also going to nominate or appoint an executor or a personal representative. So when you write a will with me, you have to decide who is going to represent you along with your attorney. Because eventually, right, there's only 2 things certain in life, I hate to say it, but taxes are one of them, and death is the other. So we can't get away from that, and being prepared really makes a difference for your family members. So having this structure and having a personal representative selected is key. That personal representative doesn't have to be a family member. It can be a friend, it could be a sister, it could be a neighbor that you love, it could be anybody that you entrust. And they're going to make sure that everything that you wrote in the will is going to occur. And that's the key. Making sure that all your desires are in the will. Now, part of the package is there's multiple documentation. So you have the first document, which is the last, right, testament. Then you have a living will. Does anybody know what a living will is? Have you heard about a living will?
Yeah, for the hospital.
Right, for the hospital, exactly. You don't want the hospital to decide what happens to your mom, your child, your sister. You don't want the hospital to decide whether to resuscitate or not resuscitate, or to pull or not pull. The living will in Florida gives you, the family, the power back. And if you don't have it, guess who decides? The hospital, not your family. So it's really important when I sit down with you to do the estate planning that that living will is one of the documents in your package. And then in that living will, you're going to select one person. I've had parents that select 2. Maybe they put both of their kids, or if they have 3 and then they all have to vote, and then we write some language in there so that they all decide. Sometimes if you have multiple children, I don't recommend you put all the pressure on one child, because those are tough decisions. So, you know, I talk to you one-on-one about that, but it's important to have that living will. The other document is the health surrogate. Have you heard of the health surrogate? Yes? Okay, I see a couple hands. If you haven't, what that is that the person that you select can help make decisions about medication, nursing facilities, any decisions that you're not able to make at that time. They can step in and have that directive, that health directive, to assist you with those problems, questions. They can also say, hey, why are you mixing these 2 drugs? You're making my mom a zombie. And I don't want you to give that to her. And that health surrogate, that health document, gives them the power and the strength to put the doctor in his place, because you know everyone is human. Doctors sometimes make mistakes. I hate to say it, but it's the truth. Okay, so you always want someone watching out for you. And that's what the health surrogate does. We do an estate valuation and a strategy. So when we sit down, we're going to look at your estate valuation, we're going to look at strategy, we're going to make sure that you have a homestead exemption on your primary home. That's really important. With the next segue, which is the probate and litigation. Has anybody experienced probate? Anybody heard of probate? Okay, a couple of hands. It's not a fun process, I'm sure you know. There are two types of probate, and that's a whole other seminar, but I'll make it real quick. When you pass, with a will or without a will, and you have an estate, you have to have probate. You can't get away from it. And it's either going to be a summary or it's going to be a formal. A lot of people say, well, why do I have to probate? She had a will. Well, you have to probate the will. It has to go through the court. The judge has to authorize me as your attorney and the heirs to get the percentages and the things that you decided in your will. And if there isn't a will, then it goes by intestacy, right? It goes from husband and wife to children. And if everyone's gone, then it goes back up to mom and dad. And if they're gone, then it goes to brothers and sisters. I always say it's like a cross, right? It goes from the top to the bottom and then back up and sideways. Brothers and sisters are considered the sideways of the cross. And that's how it passes in Florida. Like I said, that's a really complicated process, and maybe another day we could do that seminar. But let's get to the nitty and gritty, adding to what Marty was talking about, deeds. Ladybird deed. How many people have heard about a ladybird deed? What a wonderful instrument the ladybird deed is. For those of you that don't know about it, I'm going to tell you a little bit about it and why I love this instrument. A ladybird deed is, okay, you've already bought your home. When you buy your home and you get title insurance, it's insuring the warranty deed. And I'm going to talk about title insurance in a little bit. But the warranty deed is just a warranty deed. It's going to give it to you and your spouse if you're married, or just you. The ladybird deed is almost like me building a mini will within the deed. You still have control of your property, and I'll give you an example. So mom and dad are the owners of the property, but mom and dad will have a life estate within the property, which means they cannot be removed from the deed until they go to heaven. The time that mom and dad pass, the language in the ladybird deed goes to what's called the remainder men. Your remainder men can be your children. It could be whoever you want. It could be a nonprofit, it could be a charity, whoever you want to leave that property to. So guess what I just did for my client? I avoided probate. And I just saved you $8,000 if it's a summary. If it's a formal, you're going to spend $25,000 to $30,000 in a formal probate. So if you have more assets than one home and $75,000, you fall into the formal. And formal probate is very expensive, especially if I have kids that fight. Now, can you ladybird multiple properties? Absolutely. And that's why I love this instrument, because I have a lot of seniors that I work with and a lot of kids that want to get their homes before they've even gone. And they'll come to my office and say, hey, my mom and dad want me to have the house. Go ahead and quitclaim deed it to me. Oh no, I won't do it. I will ladybird it, because what happens is that mom and dad will have full power of that house until they pass. Okay? And a quitclaim deed, the second you quitclaim deed it, you just lost all your power, and your property gets reassessed, and you pay more taxes. And the ladybird deed, you do not. And if your kids turn bad, right? The ladybird deed doesn't get changed of ownership until mom and dad pass. The second you record the death certificates and the county knows mom and dad are not there, then you get reassessed. But you're avoiding probate. And you're avoiding the instant quitclaim deed taxes. So what's nice about this, and going back to the bad child, if the bad child becomes a bad child, or let's say they're a great child and they win the lottery, and you have two kids, one has the lottery and one doesn't, you can change it all up, because the ladybird deed gives you the power to do whatever you want while you're alive. You have the power to sell it, mortgage it, do anything that you want with it. Right. They are just remainder men, and they don't get the power until both of you have passed. Okay, so I just want to be really clear on that. And the quitclaim deed, you don't have the taxes. Like a lot of people say, hey, quitclaim deed, get us out so my kids don't have to probate. No, Lady Bird deed is the way to go. So if you don't have your properties under Lady Bird deed, I highly recommend doing that. It's great estate planning, especially if you just have 1 or 2 properties. Okay, guys? So that's pretty much it. I know I'm close to my time. I'm going to cover one other thing. In the Lady Bird deed, there are 3 types of tenancies that you want to consider. One is tenants in common, and one is joint tenants with right of survivorship. Parents are always asking me, well, if I leave it to my kids, what do I do? Do I do with right of survivorship? So if you have Sue and Charles are the kids, Sue dies, then Charles gets it all with the right of survivorship. Or you do a tenancy in common, so if Sue has children and they're your grandchildren, her share will pass to your grandchildren. It's a complicated instrument, and that's why you want a real estate attorney doing it 100% the way that you really want to do it, and maintain the control. Because with the Lady Bird deed, you have control the whole time you're alive and breathing. With the life estate, you don't, okay? I mean, you do and you don't. It's a little bit more technical, but as far as I'm concerned, the Lady Bird deed is your best way. And I can have a consultation with you and explain that in more detail, okay? So, the last part I'm going to talk about real quick, because I see a lot of questions and I'm down to my last 5 minutes, is title closings. Why is title insurance so important? I mean, you heard about the fraud. You don't want to do quitclaim deeds. You know, you have a cash property and someone offers you cash and you just say, oh, I'll just quitclaim deed it to them and they'll give me cash under the table. Well, I mean, title insurance is going to insure both the buyer and the seller to make sure everything is done right. Title insurance protects you from the moment you close and throughout your ownership. If anything ever comes back up to bite you, the title insurance is there to cover you. I underwrite with Attorney's Title. I've been practicing for over 20 years, and I've been doing title insurance policies for about 18 years. So I highly recommend it. I've seen all kinds of crazy things on title. Sometimes things are missed. People come back to life. They were supposedly dead. Then they say, oh, I still own the property. And that's why title insurance is so important. And do we have time for 1 or 2 questions?
Yeah, give 2 questions.
Yeah, go ahead. Armando's part of the law firm.
I've seen this a lot. I have a lot of clients that come back and reach back out to me. There's people that actually pay a service to see when there are any changes of title, and they send a document to your house that it mimics an official county or state document, and they basically say, we'll get you a certified copy of your deed, and then they charge you like $75, and sometimes you get those letters are very specific, and they'll have the names of the people on title.
Oh, it doesn't mask it. It doesn't mask their names. Their names are public record. Anybody can pull it up, like he said, along with the fraud. So they're always looking. But the names are there. They're not in secret. The only thing that's a secret is probate, and your wills do not become public information. They're filed with the court, and unless you're a probate attorney, you cannot access those documents. Otherwise, we would know, Michael Jackson's worth and what he gave to everybody. Those documents are confidential. Wills are, but not deeds. Deeds are all public information.
And if you take it out and put it in your children's name, you lose your homestead. Okay, and a lot of seniors they do go ahead and try to do it themselves, and then big boo-boos happen. I don't know why my taxes have tripled or quadrupled because they decided they wanted to put it in their children's name to save them the headache, but guess what? They still live there, and they lost their homestead because it's no longer in their name.
Because they listen to their children. I think I had one more question and we'll wrap it up. Go ahead. All right. So nice to talk to all of you. Remember, right over there. Thank you.